It started with a whisper, a ripple in the sky, something no one else seemed to notice. But I did, and that's how I met her. One minute I was just another nobody, sleep-deprived, broke, scrolling through conspiracy forums like a lunatic. The next, I was standing face to face with the most dangerously beautiful woman I had ever seen. And she wasn't from here. She had eyes like molten silver, a voice that could command armies, and a secret big enough to make world governments crumble. A secret she tried to keep from me. But let's be real. When a woman that stunning crashes into your life, wearing nothing but confidence and a dangerously tight disguise, you start asking questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why, in the name of all that is logical, did she look at me like I was the one thing in this entire messed up universe that she wasn't supposed to want? I should have run. I should have ignored her. But let's be honest. When a woman like that locks eyes with you and smirks like she knows all your deepest sins, you don't run. You fall. Hard. And that's how my life went from boring to absolutely, catastrophically insane. Her name was Zaira. At least that's what she told me. But she wasn't some lost tourist, some foreign beauty with an accent that made my brain short-circuit. No, she was something else entirely. She had landed here with a mission, a cold, calculated purpose, to study us, to analyze our weaknesses, to prepare Earth for conquest. And me, I was nothing more than a speck of dust in her grand plan. Just another clueless human, another footnote in the history of our soon-to-be extinct civilization. At least that's what she thought. But something was off. She wasn't acting like an emotionless conqueror. No, she was curious, watching people, asking questions, tasting food like it was some kind of forbidden pleasure. She looked at the world like someone seeing color for the first time, and every time she looked at me, that same curiosity burned in her eyes. I should have suspected something. I should have realized that a woman that perfect, flawless skin, an impossibly sculpted body, and a confidence that could shatter steel was too good to be true. But I didn't care, because for some reason, she kept coming back to me. And I was too busy getting addicted to the way she smirked, the way she tilted her head when I confused her, the way her fingers lingered a little too long when she touched me. Yeah, I was in trouble. Big, intergalactic, potentially world-ending trouble. She was supposed to be a heartless invader, a warrior princess from a civilization so advanced, so ruthless, that Earth didn't stand a chance. But tell me why. Why did she melt just a little when she tasted ice cream for the first time? Why did her fingers brush against mine when she thought I wasn't looking? Why did she let me get close, so close I could hear the hitch in her breath every time I made her laugh? This wasn't just an act. It couldn't be. Because the way she looked at me, it wasn't the gaze of a conqueror sizing up her prey. No, it was something far more dangerous. It was hesitation. It was doubt. It was longing. She started asking questions she wasn't supposed to ask. Why do humans love? Why do we fight for things that don't make sense? Why do we chase dreams, even when they're impossible? And I had my own questions. Why did my pulse race every time she leaned in? Why did I keep finding excuses to be near her, to make her smile, to push her just a little past that cold, disciplined exterior? And most of all, why in the name of all that was logical, did it feel like she was falling for me? Maybe I should have been afraid. Maybe I should have reminded myself that she wasn't human, that she had a mission, that at any moment she could call down an army to wipe us all out. But all I could think about was the way her lips parted slightly when I teased her. The way her eyes flickered with something primal, something forbidden, something that told me, conqueror or not, she wasn't immune to me either. I was playing with fire, and God help me, I wanted to burn. They say ignorance is bliss, and for a while I lived in that sweet, reckless fantasy, where she was just a woman, and I was just a man, and the only thing between us was the heat of a stolen moment. But the truth hit like a goddamn asteroid. I found it by accident, a flickering hologram, a transmission in a language that sent shivers down my spine. Blueprints of Earth, our defenses, our weaknesses, and her name, Commander Zira of the Zeltharian Empire. Not just some soldier, not just some scout. She was royalty, a princess of destruction. And I was the idiot she had wrapped around her finger. She tried to explain, said it wasn't what I thought, that I didn't understand, and maybe I didn't. Maybe I couldn't. Because all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. All I could see was the betrayal written across her face as I stepped away from her. Like distance could somehow erase what we had shared. Was any of it real? I asked. My voice was rough, raw, desperate. She opened her mouth, closed it, and that hesitation, that half-second of silence, it told me everything I needed to know. I was nothing more than a mission, a distraction, a pathetic little human she toyed with while waiting for the invasion fleet to arrive. I walked away that night, swearing I'd never look back, that I'd forget the way she felt in my arms, the way she whispered my name like it meant something, the way her lips had trembled, just for a second, before she let me go. But I should have known better. Because the storm wasn't over, it was just beginning. The sky burned red, cities trembled, the invasion had begun. I stood there watching as massive warships, her warships, descended like gods of judgment. The air cracked with energy, sirens screamed, and somewhere, up there, in the belly of that monstrous fleet, was her, Princess Zira, heir to the Empire, commander of the attack, the woman who had lied to me, the woman who had betrayed me, the woman who, against all logic, against all reason, I couldn't stop thinking about. I should have been running, should have been hiding, should have been doing anything but what I was about to do, because I wasn't going to let this happen. Not without a fight, not without seeing her one last time. I broke into a restricted zone, stole a communicator, did the single dumbest thing any human could possibly do during an alien invasion. I sent a message straight to the flagship, straight to her. Zira, I know you can hear me. Silence. Is this who you are? Is this who you want to be? More silence, then a crackle, a breath, in her voice, soft, shaken, and laced with something dangerous. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. Another pause, longer this time, and then an explosion from the fleet above. One of the warships. Breaking formation? No, not breaking. Turning, against its own. And that's when I knew. She had made her choice. She wasn't their princess anymore. She was something else, something far more dangerous. A traitor to her empire, a savior to Earth, and maybe just, maybe, still the woman I had fallen for. The battle was over. Earth still stood. But nothing would ever be the same. Zira had turned against her own people, defied everything she had been raised to believe. She had fought, bled, and nearly died. For me, for us, for a planet that was never meant to survive. The fleet was in ruins. What was left of the invasion force had scattered, leaderless, lost. But Zira, she could never go back. Her home, her throne, her entire past, gone. And now she was just as stranded as I was. A warrior without a war. A princess without a kingdom. We stood together in the aftermath, smoke rising in the distance, the sky still stained with the ghosts of a battle that had nearly ended everything. And yet, despite it all, she still looked at me the same way she had that first night. Like I was something dangerous, something she wasn't supposed to want, something she could never walk away from. So what now? I asked, voice rough, tired, a little broken. She exhaled, silver eyes flickering with something unreadable. Then finally she smirked. That same damn smirk that had started this whole mess. Now, she murmured, stepping closer. Now I guess I'm stuck with you. I huffed a laugh, shaking my head. Yeah? And what does that make us? Her fingers brushed against mine, lingering, hesitant, and then, softer than a whisper, I don't know. Star, neither did I. But as the stars above settled and the world slowly began to heal, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the end. Not even close. The war was over. But the scars it left, those would never fade. Earth still stood. Somehow, against impossible odds, we had survived. Cities smoldered. The skies bore the wounds of battle. And the echoes of warships crashing into the ocean would haunt history books forever. But we had won. Not because of weapons, not because of strategy, but because of her. Princess Zira, the woman sent to conquer us, the woman who saved us instead. She had stood on the edge of everything she had ever known, her throne, her empire, her destiny, and she had let it all burn. For me, for us, for a planet she had once seen as nothing more than an afterthought in a grand conquest. And now, she was as lost as I was. Her fleet was gone. Her people had branded her a traitor. The Zeltharian Empire wouldn't forget what she had done. They wouldn't forgive it. She could never go home, never reclaim her title. To them, she was already dead. And yet, as we stood in the ruins of what could have been the end of the world, she was still here, watching me, studying me, like I was the greatest mystery of all. I exhaled, rubbing a hand down my face. So, what now? Zyra tilted her head, that familiar spark of amusement flickering in those silver eyes. A smirk ghosted across her lips. That damn smirk. The one that had started this whole mess. The one that still made my stomach twist in ways I didn't have time to analyze. Now? She echoed, stepping closer. Her voice was softer than before. Tired, maybe, or just unsure. Now, I guess I'm stuck with you. I huffed a laugh, shaking my head. Yeah? And what does that make us? For the first time since I met her, she hesitated. Not in battle, not in strategy, but in this. Her fingers brushed against mine, barely there. A touch that held too much. Of everything we had been through. Of what we had lost. Of what neither of us knew how to name. I don't know, she admitted, barely a whisper. Neither did I. Because what the hell were we supposed to be? She was an exiled alien warlord. I was just a guy who had spent most of his life getting ignored by beautiful women, let alone intergalactic conquerors. And yet here we were, two people who had no business standing side by side, pulled together by something bigger than either of us understood. I looked at her, really looked at her. Not just as a warrior, or an alien, or the woman who had nearly destroyed my planet and then saved it in the same breath, but as Zyra. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't just a fugitive. She wasn't just a fallen princess or a lost soldier. She was free. For the first time in her life, there was no war to fight, no orders to follow, no empire dictating her every move. For the first time, she got to choose. And somehow in the chaos of it all, she had chosen me. Maybe that should have terrified me. Maybe it should have made me second-guess everything. But all I could think about was the way her gaze flickered down to my lips, the way her breath caught ever so slightly when I took a step closer. Because this wasn't just a truce, this wasn't just survival, this was something else. I let out a slow breath, watching her, waiting, testing the unspoken gravity between us, and then a shadow passed overhead. Zira's expression hardened instantly. Instinct, muscle memory, a warrior's reflex. I followed her gaze up, my stomach tightening. A Zeltharian scout ship, small, silent, unmarked, watching us. The Empire wasn't done. They weren't going to let this go. Zira clenched her jaw. I could see it, the gears turning in her mind, the battle-hardened part of her calculating the odds, planning the next move. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. They'll come back, she murmured. Her voice wasn't afraid. It never was. But it was certain. Unshakable. They'll send more. I swallowed hard. Then we run. Zira blinked, caught off guard. Run? I shrugged. You said it yourself. You're stuck with me. Something flickered in her expression. Amusement. Surprise. Maybe both. But she didn't argue. She just exhaled, shaking her head. And then, before I could process it, she grabbed my wrist. Not hard, not like an order, but like a choice. Her choice, our choice. And then we were moving. running, leaving behind the ruins, the battlefield, the past, because the Empire would come. They would hunt us. They would never stop looking for her, for us. But they had no idea what they had just created, because this time, she wasn't their weapon. She was mine. And together, we weren't just going to survive. We were going to make the universe remember our names. To be continued,